psychological tricks that make video games addictive. Multiple purposes of this talk. One is to just understand what the... I used to play a lot of video games back in my day when I was young, believe me. And
closer to the microphone, please.
Yes, I used to play, that's much better. Yes. I used to play a lot of video games when I was young. And definitely know the ins and outs of video games. I don't really play any games anymore. I'll explain why. And multiple reasons why. Also, video games have changed from when I played them some 20 years ago, and I explain what that is. I explain just how pervasive video games are as we're reaching out to cultivate people out in the material world. We can understand the effect of video games on all the people that play them. So we'll go through some statistics. Oh yes, so first we'll go through some statistics of the state of video game. We hear a lot about someone in America or South Korea that played video games for 3 days straight and then died. And these things happen, but that's like far away in different countries. What about New Zealand? What is happening right here, right now? I looked at some statistics for what's happening in New Zealand, and it's shocking, believe me. And then explain how games have changed over the years, become much more sophisticated. Then most of the talk will be detailing the psychological tricks that modern video games use to make people addicted. So we can see with the eyes of knowledge what's going on, and if you happen to play a video game or not, you can understand what's happening intellectually and then make an informed choice, activate the intelligence. And then try to answer the question, can one resist the effects of video games? And are all games bad or are all of them terrible? And then what to do, finally, some conclusions. That sounds good? Yeah? Let's get started. Okay, first of all, the state of video games in New Zealand. This is the global income from various entertainment industries. You see recorded music and movie theaters on the bottom right there. Then television and TV streaming, slightly more, and video games, more than double anything else. It is by far the biggest source of entertainment income in the world, and has had a huge amount of money, of course, invested in it, and a huge amount of money invested in broadening the appeal of video games to a much wider audience than maybe was the case many years ago. So video games are a gigantic business that's like $250 billion a year being made on video games. And according to a Bond University in Queensland, 79% of all New Zealanders play video games. That's about the age of 15. Incredible. Everyone plays video games.
Women too?
Oh yes. Yes. 72% of all New Zealand gamers are over the age of 35, 62. So it's not just kids, it's many older people playing. And you might think this is the stereotype gamer that we all think of when we think of a game player. Well, of course, yes, that's true. AI-generated image, ChatGPT, use of AI for presentations. You can generate these kind of images to describe exactly what you want. So that's true, but in New Zealand, pretty much 50-50 between men and women. So how did that happen? Video games are such a big business. The makers have figured out how do we craft a game that appeals to both genders, and they've succeeded over the years in refining something that will suit all kinds of different tastes. You think like, what? I don't have a desire to play to be that person, to play like a shooter game if you're a lady. Well, what they've done, Candy Crush. Super addictive, amazingly addictive video game. Women play this all the time. I was talking to some women, yes. Maybe not only women. Some women. Also, something like Infinity Nikki, which came out just last year and already has 20 million players, and just as an example of like something that women play, and has collected in the first month $16 million in revenue. And like, what is this game? It's a game, I had to look it up because I had never heard of it. It's a beautiful game, completely non-violent, there's no fighting. You can do magic by fashion. You put on a gliding dress and float through the air. You put on a cat costume and sneak through areas. You can duel other players by dressing up and most outdoing them in your fashion. And hugely popular with women all over the world. So it's not just men that play video games.
What's Candy Crush about?
Oh, we'll get to that. Yes. Yes. It's basically matching different rows of three different of the same candy in rows. But it's very simple. It's like simple match 3 game. 3 of the same color, match either horizontally or vertically. But they dressed it up to make it super addictive. So here is average weekly gaming in New Zealand by gender and age. You see, yes, the 15 to 24 men play by predominantly the most, but as soon as you get over the age of 45, now women are overtaking the men in playing video games. Statistically, of course, not everyone. But yes, pretty much mostly equal as soon as you get over the age of 24, where the men still dominate. And the reason why is that video games have evolved from just being something that you play on a game console to something you play on your phone. You can sneakily play the game hour or 2 anytime. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to go to a stereotypical game shop to buy a console for $1,000 and play it on the phone you already have, that everyone already has. So, and 10% of all gamers spend more than 30 hours per week gaming. So almost like 4 hours a day playing video games. And that's when you get into the problem gaming addictive territory, where people that play like 30 or 40 hours a week, those are the serious addicts that need professional help. That beyond something that I would say, they have a gambling addiction essentially, and it's not to be trifled with. And yet 10% of our gamers, and that gamers are everyone pretty much. So like 10%, pretty much 1 in 10 or maybe 1 in 15 people you will talk to at a preaching center will be addicted to video games, if they leave the house to come. So, and modern games are different. So next section. In this Bhagavatam report, Srila Prabhupada writes, those who are captivated by the illusory attachment of the material civilization, following the way of phantasmagoria are like images in a dream, very relevant language for video games, are certainly madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creature, a creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, and even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics. Srila Prabhupada says, electronics, the highest perfection of material science, are simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the 3 modes. Video games are just bewildering combination of 3 modes. So back when I played video games looked like this. Anyone know what these 2 games are? From misspent youth? Yes, you're right.
Good.
No. Wolfenstein 3, yes. Anyone know what the other one is? No. Might and Magic 3. These games, respectively, were made by a team of 5 and 8 people. Whereas today, anyone know what this is? Fortnite, yes. Notoriously addictive video game. 4,000 people working on this, spending their full-time effort to optimize the game to be as appealing as possible, to be as addictive as possible. Anyone know what this is? Certainly beautiful. No. Cyberpunk 2077. 5,000 people working on this kind of cyberpunk. You see the kind of neon lights. It looks amazingly beautiful. And people also extremely addictive. People play it. It's kind of like GTA. So let's get into the tricks that these video games enjoy. And I'm reminded of this verse from Bhagavad Gita where it talks about divine and demoniac natures in the 16th chapter. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Very strong. So we will hear from some of the people designing video games. For example, this person, Dr. Chuck Clanton, PhD in psychology from Stanford, studied in Harvard, and also a medical doctor of behavioral neuroscience from University of California. And he's the kind of person, the caliber of that kind of person, who's in charge of game design teams that craft these games, and pull out every psychological trick in the book. We'll hear from him talking at Stanford University, explaining some of the techniques he uses, so we can fully see what is happening behind the scenes. You might think, oh, it's just an innocent video game. Oh no. Very expert people are behind this crafting and manipulating. So let's go right in, him explaining his qualifications in the seminar.
I've known you a long time, and if memory serves, in an earlier life you studied psychiatry.
Psychology and psychiatry, yeah.
So to what extent did that background give you the right setup to know what to even be looking for, as opposed to an engineer that I'm sure would go at this in entirely the wrong direction and not know what he was trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable point. So it gives me tools at multiple levels. First, psychologist, I was doing user studies as a psychologist. Now I call them play testing or user testing, and I don't do them with enough numbers to create the statistics necessary to publish, but the work is the same, the frame is the same. So like the way I study a game that I'm developing is pretty much the way I studied subjects when I was doing experimental cognitive psychology. Another piece of it is that a lot of things that are principles of how people see and how they behave are things that come from cognitive psychology. I know this. Like I'm looking here, and I have a central peripheral field, a mid peripheral field, and a far peripheral field, and I have different receptors across all of those, and what kind of stimulus will get my attention varies based on where that is. There was a really great study on this at Chi this year. About time, everybody who works on things like pop-ups and stuff like that have been having to solve these problems forever, and now there's finally some studies that, 8 factors, 3 intensities, and the 3 different fields. Finally, good data. Didn't surprise me, but nonetheless, some of it did. Luminance works better than color. Yeah, luminance works better than color, for example. That was a surprise. But psychology helps with the details like that. It does, and I use it a lot.
So, just to get a taste of the kind of thinking he puts into things. All right, now let's dive into some of the techniques that are used. The technique of an energy mechanic, which creates habit formation. Energy mechanic, which will be explained in a coming video, is a thing where the game restricts you from playing it after a certain amount and stops you playing until some time has passed, some real world time has passed. And you think, oh, that's great. Stops me overdoing playing the game. No, not at all. Because the game is monitoring the person playing it, the game knows exactly when you would normally stop playing, and 5 minutes before the person actually would normally, naturally stop playing, it artificially stops playing. So you're left hankering for more. And then that makes it even more, you hanker to come back to the game because you were artificially restricted from having the game when you still want it. And so you play just as much as before, maybe 5 minutes less, but come back again and again and again. Let's explain this. Candy Crush does this to a perfected extent.
Delicious.
Candy has been keeping me up past my bedtime. I'm one of millions around the world who has a crush on Candy Crush. Players who run out of life have to wait for new ones, 30 minutes for one life.
they put the reload points of the energy such that it fits in with your daily cycle at the morning, maybe at lunchtime, maybe at nighttime. And this works very well with reinforcing the psychology of playing the game every single day.
You can also pay 99 cents for a set of new lives. The monetization method can be frustrating, but successful.
So yes, the energy mechanic. Very powerful. Next, we have the illusion of skill, which satisfies Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Humans have various needs like shelter, food, but beyond that, there's other needs like belonging, esteem, feeling accomplished in the world. And video games have this ability to make it seem like you're getting better at the game, when actually it's just a trick, because the game can make it fool you into thinking that you're getting better, when actually you're just playing the game for longer, creating this feeling of, oh yeah, I'm really good at this, I'm really good, I'm really amazing at playing. So let's watch a video explaining that.
However, when you are playing a video game, you only think that your psychological needs are being fulfilled, when in reality, it's just an illusion. Nonetheless, this illusion is pretty strong and more easily reached than actually going out there and trying to satisfy these needs in the real world. Let's try to analyze a game, as just an example, a classic that everybody knows, Fortnite. Sure, Fortnite doesn't fulfill physiological needs, as you can't quench your thirst or your hunger while playing it, but the comfort you experience fulfills the safety level. Then, since you are playing with real people online, it fulfills the social stage of belonging. You are all playing together and feel like a part of a community. Plus, when you get that kill or even a victory royale, you fulfill the esteem stage. You achieve and you gain confidence. The cognition stage is also fulfilled as you're running around trying to come up with the best strategy to win. Alright, so Fortnite may not fulfill all of those needs instantly, but if you play for a while and Fortnite becomes the only source where you can get that need satisfaction, well, it's not far-fetched to think that Fortnite can take up the place of meaning in your life and fulfill the highest peak, self-actualization. I actually have a client I've worked with in my coaching program for quite some time, and this is a kind of semi-professional Fortnite player. And for this player, what we've seen over the last year and a half is actually Fortnite becoming a greater and greater priority in his life. It is prioritized over college, it's prioritized over exercise, it's prioritized over any real life social engagement. And more as things in his life have got worse and worse, his time playing Fortnite has got greater and greater. Yet Fortnite is still, even at that state, prioritized over everything. Fortnite has become his world. It's become the source of his identity. It's become the source of how he fulfills all of his time. It's how he really feels this sense of purpose in his life, even to the detriment of everything around him, including his health and his relationships. The way that video games can fulfill your needs is a big part of how they can become addictive. There's one smaller element that contributes to the overall addictive nature of video games: the illusion of gaining skill. You might think that when you were playing a game, you were getting better at it by gaining skills on how to play, what works and what doesn't, and quicker reactions to problem solving. However, becoming better at games may not necessarily be true. Sure, when it comes to esports titles like Fortnite, CSGO, League of Legends, and so on, you do need specific skills that you acquire through playing the game. But listen to this.
So there's a trick in games. Games do require skill, and you have to develop certain skills to do things. But the primary thing that is your skill is seniority in game. That is, we do lots of things to give you more power, more capability, more scope with time in game. Yes, you have to learn how to do a basic set of skills, but actually, you haven't become a masterful sharpshooter. You become a slightly better sharpshooter, and you put enough time in the game that we give you more power, a better gun. So you keep thinking you're getting better and better and better. What you're actually getting is older.
This illusion of becoming better, while in reality, just being rewarded by the game for putting the time in, is very cleverly designed, for instance, in the most recent remake of Resident Evil 4. In that game, you start off with pretty much nothing, except a pistol. And winning against a horde of villagers in the first bigger arena of the game can be quite challenging. However, as you keep playing, you find a shotgun, and although your aim might not have gotten better, you now have a more powerful weapon to survive, and you receive the illusion that you are getting better at the game.
Yes, you don't get better at games, you just get older. massive trick that was being played intentionally by the video game designers. Next, technique of the difficulty ramp. This is what makes games exciting. And the outcome here is the ecstasy of winning. The same psychologist, expert psychologist, will explain how he designs this into the games. Yes, you can feel ecstasy when playing games, not by Krishna conscious ecstasy, but artificial ecstasy, which keeps you playing.
Part of what makes games so compelling is it's fiero in Italian, the ecstasy of winning. Now, in order to get to the ecstasy of winning, that's another piece of how games get designed. This is the way I design a game. And it's quite explicit. I put these games, if the first couple hours of play, I watch them play it. The first 10 hours of play, I watch them periodically play it. The first 100 hours of playing, I have my QA team, there's 200 people who make no money out in the backyard playing back studio, playing all these games all day long. And there's two things I need to know. What level you're playing at, how long did it take you to play it? I want it turned in every night. And then if I see a spike like this, unexpected, that's not on my plan, then I put out to the QA studio, the next person who's playing this level, call me before you start, and I watch it. Because I gotta get this. It's gotta work like this. Now, this isn't just an esoteric video game. You can see this in Candy Crush. You can see it there. When you win a really hard one, the next one is really easy, and the next one's a little harder, and then it's easier again, and then it's harder again, and then it has boss levels just like a console video game does. Those big peaks, those are the boss levels. And when you finally win one of those, you get that. Now, how do I get you to the point where you're willing to put in that much effort? Notice the time scale is also expanding. It takes longer and longer to win because it's hard. So the way I do that is think of frustration as kind of a bank account. Every time you win, you put some money in, and you'll use that to win bigger. And then you win bigger and you put some more money in, you put that money in, and then you'll have more money to win bigger. So one of the things I tell people who would like our level designers is make friends with the frustration, because your job is to frustrate people just to the point that they're almost ready to leave, and then give them a win and give them a big reward for the win, and then do it again. And again, and again. But each time it goes higher. And that's how you get to that. And once you get that, you got them. They're going to keep playing. This is one of the most powerful chemical releases, pleasurable chemical releases you can get in your brain. It's a dopamine surge. And it's very engaging. You don't want to stop. But you're tired now. That's why it has to go down. And it has to be fast down. Like, good, you're going to knock one off and knock another one off and knock another one off and knock another one off. You might stop playing for a bit and you come back in, knock another couple off, and then boom, we'll start climbing the mountain again. Heading for the hard one. And in a console game, that usually has some story to it, meaning, the next bad guy, whoever he is, that you got to defeat. And you're kind of working your way towards them. But this is true, this kind of a curve is true in everything you play. It's true in Angry Birds, Candy Crush. It's true in any game that has had its levels carefully designed to engage you. Because we want to move you to the point where you'll work really hard to win and then feel really victorious when you do that.
So they carefully craft just enough frustration that you keep playing and then give you this giant dopamine surge where you're like, amazing. And then really easy and build up again. Expertly done to be the perfect, to simulate the kind of ecstasy that a professional athlete winning world championships feels, which is how they get you. Next, we'll see how this manifests in the infamous Candy Crush. Here we'll hear from an addict of Candy Crush, how she feels after playing the game.
My name is Megan Rose Dickey, and I'm addicted to Candy Crush. Bomb exploded. What's the easiest way to describe Candy Crush? Nothing can compare to Candy Crush. It's all about just matching candies in rows or in columns of 3. I was really convinced that Candy Crush Saga would not be addictive. Like I thought like, oh, like it's not gonna get me, like these people are just crazy. Next thing I know, I'm spending hours upon hours playing the game. 8 consecutive hours playing it. Yes, I admit that. I'm then up all night into, I don't know, maybe like 3 a.m. In the span of 1 week, I actually ended up spending $127 playing Candy Crush Saga. You can buy like 5 additional lives at once, or let's say you just have like 1 more move, you might want to take out your lollipop hammer. But you're only given 3 lollipop hammers when you first start the game. And that's when you start buying a bunch of lollipops, just like smashing hammers like it's nobody's business. Yeah, I'm an addict. It's never ending. It's always something new. You could have to deal with like the crazy evil chocolate candies. Oh, I hate that chocolate. It just kind of always keeps you on your toes. If I were to like open this up right now, Jesus. So I have 50 seconds to hit like 50,000. Like you just feel like you're like kind of like going crazy. Just pressure. I could end up playing this game for the rest of my life, which is kind of scary to think about. But I kind of don't want it any other way.
Yes. All right, next. This is probably the most powerful technique. Who has heard of what a Skinner box is? I'm just interested to see. 1 person. Wow, okay. Oh, what's that? Probably, yes, of course. Yes. This is, we'll get an explanation of what this is. Anyone know what this is? Yes, say. Slot machine, yes. Slot machine in a casino. Slot machines have evolved. They're no longer the simple mechanical machines. Now they're expert computers that monitor the person behind the slot machine very expertly. And so much so that 80% of a casino's income is now slot machines. It used to be 30%. It's gone up to 80% as they've improved the slot machine to be more and more addictive. And guess what? That same optimization of slot machines is what has been applied to video games. So in the 1930s to the 1950s in America, a psychologist called B.F. Skinner did revolutionary cognitive behavior experiments using pigeons. Here is in his own words, and then we'll watch another video that explains what he just explained in a more contemporary way and applied to video games.
The main thing is what we call schedules of reinforcement. Reinforcement is what the layman calls reward, and you can schedule it so that a reward occurs every now and then when a pigeon does something. We usually use a response with a pigeon pecking a little disc, a little spot on the wall, and you can reinforce with food, but you don't reinforce every time. Perhaps every 10th time, or perhaps only once every minute or something like that. There are a very large number of schedules, and they have their special effects. And there is a good example of how you can move from the pigeon to the human case, because one of the schedules which is very effective with rats or pigeons is what we call the variable ratio schedule, and that is at the heart of all gambling devices and has the same effect. The pigeon can become a pathological gambler just as a person can. Now, the fact that we found that out with pigeons and could prove it by removing and changing the schedule makes it easy for it to interpret the case with the human subject. We don't say that the human subject gambles to punish himself, as the Freudians might say, or gambles because he feels excited when he does so. Nothing of the sort. People gamble because of the schedule of the reinforcement that follows. And this is true of all gambling systems. They all have variable ratios built into them. So what we've learned from the pigeon, it made it possible to interpret this vast field very effectively.
Yes, he managed to make pigeons addicts. addicted to pecking the disc can make pigeons addicted, and the same thing applies to humans, the very same psychological trick. So here's the same thing explained but applied to video games with a nice animation.
Skinner created a machine, a simple box with a button in it, that he would put pigeons in. When the pigeons pecked at the button, the machine would give them food. He then hooked the box up to a recording device so he could tell how often the pigeons pecked the button. Seems simple enough, so why was this so groundbreaking? Because pecking the button is active. This wasn't just an automatic reaction to stimuli, it involved making a decision. So if Skinner could show that he could consistently change how often the pigeons pecked the button, he could show that he could condition them to make a specific choice. This is called operant conditioning. Now there were two amazing parts to his findings. 1, operant conditioning works on humans. 2, simply rewarding someone every time they do an action isn't the best way to keep them continually doing that action. Rather, if you provide a reward to a person after they perform the action a random number of times, or only give a reward once every so many minutes, these methods are far more effective at conditioning someone to repeat an action. Skinner often talked about operant conditioning in terms of gambling. Most gambling games are not rigged in the gambler's favor, and oddly enough, most gamblers are well aware of this. And yet, they continue to gamble rather than perform an equally strenuous job that has a regular payout with a higher net profit. Consider which activity people will tell you is more fun. Spending 8 hours in a casino playing the slots and ending up with $100, or pushing a button in a factory for 8 hours and getting a paycheck for $100 at the end. This is all compounded by another discovery of Skinner's research. He demonstrated that primary conditioners, or rewards that are fundamental biological needs, food, water, sex, etc., have a diminishing effect once a person reaches satiation, or the biological limit of their needs. But then there are secondary reinforcers, things outside the biological realm, like money or social approbation. These things generally don't hit a satiation point. You can probably see where we're going with this. Many of you have played Farmville or World of Warcraft well past the point where it was fun. Why? Because those games are very clearly built around reward schedules. The entire design of both of those games is to condition you to continue to repeat an action that has long since lost its novelty, that has long since become tedious. Have you ever finished a game and then looked back a few weeks later and thought, what the hell was I doing putting 80 hours of my life into that? That usually happens because the game used Skinner's techniques to create the illusion of engagement and extend playtime.
So yes, this technique makes it so that people continue to play the game even past it being fun. You play it because it's created an addiction in the player, and it works on everyone. So we'll come back to an example of that, but first, another technique is in-game currency. Many modern games have a built-in currency, and with some weird exchange ratio to real money. So you can buy in-game currency with real money, and then spend that in-game currency in-game to buy stuff, like the lollipop hammer in Candy Crush, for example, which allows you to win a level very easily. So that creates indiscriminate money spending, and we'll get an explanation as to why.
So what makes a game addictive, and can you deliberately design that? Jamie Griesemer, a former game design lead at Bungie, famously said that the secret of great game design is creating a repeatable gameplay loop to hook players. This loop needs to be the central activity that players engage in, and it also needs to be flexible enough that it can be applied across the entire length of the game. Now, hooking players isn't a new idea or something exclusive to video games. It's a common practice in product design with a wealth of books and techniques on the topic. Products and services don't become addictive by chance. Addiction is carefully crafted, and there's usually a team or multiple teams responsible for researching, building, and iterating on these experiences to make them as addictive as possible. Creating addictive experiences has been one of the central objectives of game design for a long time. Enter the variable ratio schedule, sometimes referred to as the variable reward schedule. This is a very effective and adaptable technique for getting a person to continually repeat a specific task. Here's how it works. Rather than receiving a reward every time you complete a task, you only receive them sometimes, and never in a way that's predictable. Receiving rewards at random intervals rather than each time is apparently a pattern our brains can't get enough of. It can be used to incentivize performance in the workplace, encourage good behavior in children, fight substance abuse, or in the context of games, keep people playing for long periods of time. There's probably a really good explanation as to why this is so effective, but that's way outside my level of expertise. Slot machines have been using variable rewards for many years to huge success. They're so successful at this that in 2017, slot machines accounted for as much as 80% of all revenue generated in Vegas casinos. In the book Addiction by Design, problem gamblers were interviewed about their experiences with slot machines in the hope to better understand why they were so addictive. People describe playing these machines as being in a trance-like state where everyday life faded into the background and they lost all concept of time. The book refers to this state as the machine zone, and being in the zone is what gamblers become addicted to. In many cases, winning isn't even the main reason people keep playing, it's simply a means of staying in the zone. The similarities between modern-day slot machines and the loot boxes we see in games are many, but beyond this, I think the idea of this hypnotic state where all sense of time and reality is lost is the most interesting. I'm sure anyone who said just one more game only to end up playing to the early hours of the morning can probably relate to this. Okay, so we've established that loot boxes are bad, but this isn't the only casino tactic used in games. Pretty much every game that allows you to purchase items such as microtransactions has its own currency. From fight money to shards to V-Bucks, these virtual currencies are ubiquitous. They act in a similar way to casino chips, and while they might seem harmless enough, they serve an important role. Their primary purpose is to act as a psychological separator between you and your money. Their denominations rarely match their real-world counterparts, which makes it hard to have a concept of what you're actually spending. For this reason, they are very conducive to impulse purchases and spending large amounts, because it can feel like you're not spending real money. In-game currency is always purchased in bulk amounts too, meaning you typically have to purchase more than what you need. This leaves you with a surplus that you can't spend anywhere else, and unlike casino chips, can't be cashed in. This inevitably results in further spending when the amount you have left over is insufficient to buy anything else.
So yes, the Skinner box, the loot box, which is like a reward box, which creates addiction. You get something in the game, you get this variable. Sometimes it gives you something useful, sometimes it gives you nothing. You want to keep playing because the next time you get a box, you might get what you want, and of course the in-game currency, which encourages people to spend indiscriminate amounts of money. Summary of game design techniques that we've covered here. There's the energy mechanic, where they restrict you from playing artificially, which forms the habit. There's the illusion of skill, which satisfies all the human needs. There's the difficulty ramp, which creates this ecstasy of winning. There's the variable reward schedule, or the Skinner box, which creates addiction, same as a slot machine. There's the in-game currency, which encourages people to spend huge amounts of money. And there's the loot boxes, which is another way of crafting this Skinner box, all also creating addiction. So, you will see that most modern games have all of these techniques built into them. And there's commercial reasons for this. Games didn't used to have all the psychological tricks. Also didn't used to have like 5,000 people working to make one of these things possible. But the games that were successful, that made all the money, did more and more of this, which forces all the other game studios to also implement the same techniques, even if they don't want to. Many studios have gone out of business because they haven't implemented enough Skinner boxes, because they simply don't make enough money competing against the games that do. Which, a game that can make twice the amount of money by implementing one of these, of course, is going to be more successful, and therefore, over time, just through market forces, everyone is forced to adopt these things. So it used to go from 20 years, from computer games, video games, 20 years ago, where they were kind of maybe fun but innocent, into the world we have today, where nearly every game created has to have most of the stuff built into it. Otherwise, it would never be financed. So then, knowing all this, can someone resist with all this knowledge? The senses are, from Bhagavad Gita, the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. We'll hear from someone who studies, who has a whole YouTube channel, analyzing games, and he tried to play Candy Crush to see what would happen to him, knowing full well all the stuff that I just explained.
The next day, well,
technically the same day, but you know what I mean. I decided to play Candy Crush. I told myself it was just one more time just to see how high I could get my streak. And I guess I just needed that mindless dopamine again. Keep in mind, at this point the game isn't giving me any free bonuses. The only bonuses I get are from the streak. And if I don't get any bonuses, I just have to rely on my pure gamer skills to get me through this. So I'm playing, and then I lose, and I lose again and again until I finally beat that stage on my last move like the true gamer I am. I then collect my turtles. This screen is here again for some reason, and I get my daily win? Now there's the Candy Chronicles I need to worry about? Can this game just stop? There are so many things to keep track of. I keep playing, dominating levels, getting my streak bonuses until I lose only a couple levels later. At this point, I also lost this challenge that I didn't know I was a part of. And the thing is, even if I wanted to keep up with all of these gimmicks that Candy Crush has to offer, I just don't know if I could. So I played that level until I had no lives left, and then I admitted defeats for the night. But don't worry, because we will be back at 7 a.m. the next day. And for this Candy Crush session, you know the deal. I'm dominating, a couple losses here and there, but I don't care. I'm getting my turtles, and there's UFOs now. Some levels I'm just too good. I win with 23 moves left, yet somehow don't get 3 stars. I collect all of the scrolls, and oops, they're behind a paywall. Uh-oh, nightmarishly hard difficult level ahead of us, and there's frogs. I beat it first try. I am unstoppable. I am the Candy Crush master over here. You got that? And with bated breath, I'm sure you're asking yourselves, will I play again? And of course I will. Less than 4 hours later, as a matter of fact. This is the point where I realized I was having a Candy Crush crisis. It wasn't until sometime during this play session that I realized I was a sucker that fell right into Candy Crush's original trap. I felt all high and mighty while playing this, like, I'm not gonna pay for any of the things you throw in my face. I know how to spend my money. I'm too good for this. Oh wow, this guilt trip is way too obvious. That has nothing to do with why I'm still playing. But little did I know, this entire time I was in a battle with Candy Crush, and I was losing pretty hard. In fact, I will say I lost the battle as soon as I beat that first level, and all the dopamine went to my brain from all the power-ups they gave me. I played for an hour and 30 minutes that first day, and after that I only started to play more and more frequently. The initial power-ups the game threw at me got me hooked, and it was the streaks that kept me playing. Meanwhile, the entire time I have convinced myself that I am playing this game on my own terms. I am playing Candy Crush ironically, because who plays Candy Crush unironically in 2022? Well, the answer is me, and I had no idea. And that's because this game has so many manipulative tactics, some subtle, but most aren't. But regardless, there's so many, it's hard to know you're even being manipulated in the first place. If the crying girl doesn't get you to play more, maybe it's the one life left that tricks you. Maybe you can't lose out on those turtles, you want the scrolls, you don't want the streak to end. Maybe you want to win the race, or the other race that I never knew I was in. Or maybe your brain will miss the dopamine of all of the bright flashy lights and the beautiful noises just in your face constantly. So I stopped playing that day. I spent the rest of the day thinking of everything I told you in this video. This is when I thought this video could happen. And then I went to bed and woke up this morning. I decided to play Candy Crush just one more time to see if, knowing what I know now, if I would still have the urge to play more. So I play, and I can't beat the level that I was stuck on last night, so I stopped playing. And at the time, I was like, well, that's good news. I don't have an urge to play anymore, so now that I'm aware of the tactics, I won't fall for it. However, that didn't quite happen. You see, I then write this entire script, but I want to know what level I left off on for this script. So I go to Candy Crush just to see that. But of course, that's not all that happens. I go, you know what, let me just try to beat this one level. You know, I will either lose all my lives, or I'm gonna beat the level and be done and, you know, start filming the video. I beat the level pretty quickly, and then I keep playing for 30 more minutes. And this is after I wrote this entire script and came to this realization. I'm still playing. How brain dead do I have to be to know all the warning signs, to know everything that happened, to have written an entire script about it. How brain dead do I need to be to keep playing it? This is what I wrote for the ending of the original script. I can confidently say that my Candy Crush crisis is over, but because of my immediate relapse with this game, I don't think that's true anymore. The best I can do is to just pray that I never ironically play this game again and then suddenly get sucked right back in. At first I wanted to make this video just for the laughs, but now I want to make this video just to hold myself accountable. So if this ever does happen again, there's a video out there that I can refer to, and there's a whole audience that can hold me accountable for it.
So yes, accountability, very important also, of course, in devotional service, being accountable to someone else. But yes, even if you know everything, you know all this stuff, still it will get you. It's like the slot machine, it's impossible to resist. So, brief thing on, are all games bad? There are some games that have some practical use, for sure. Minecraft is, once the screen comes back on, Minecraft, very popular in children, doesn't have particularly many addictive mechanics built in. Scratch is a game system to learn computer coding for people that are wanting to get to that career path. Kerbal Space Program learns like spacecraft design. I'm sure most people here are not going to get to spacecraft design, so probably not useful for them. But Civilization for world history, at least the material version of that. Portal for like spatial reasoning, puzzle solving. Super Monkey Ball for surgeons. So there's a study showing that surgeons that play 3 hours a week of Super Monkey Ball perform surgery with 47% fewer errors and 39% faster. What's Super Monkey Ball? It's this really silly, dumb game where a monkey's in a ball rolling along, and you tilt the entire world back and forwards to control where the monkey goes. So instead of controlling the ball, you control the world by tilting it. And it's really good for hand-eye coordination. So by surgeons warming up before a surgery, playing this game, they're much better with their hands at performing the surgery. So all of these games that are beneficial for a specific purpose, where it's a simulation of something that helps learn something for a specific purpose. So there are games, if done intentionally for a specific purpose, that are beneficial. But games for their own sake, for fun, really don't have a specific purpose other than now addiction. And once they become addictive, they're no longer fun. So, what to do? Knowing all this. Well, first of all, let's admit video games are Maya. Of course. And this figuratively, of course, but also literally. One of the main computer programs that video game developers use to craft video games is literally called Maya, Autodesk Maya. Very appropriate name, Illusion, for the same reason of the meaning of the Sanskrit word. They are literally crafting illusion intentionally, and then the computer programs named it. Very complicated program. It takes years to learn for a professional video game developer. You can craft entire worlds in it. It's very expensive also. So then, let's hear from Prahlad Maharaj, who explains what we should do, because what do I know? One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of life from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary, like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. So the human life is extremely valuable. We can use it to achieve perfection. We shouldn't waste it playing video games. So, best use of the human form. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, of course. And games dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. Can be very similar to hearing and chanting about Krishna. Neutral, not necessarily problematic, but also not serving self-realization in any useful way. Games that teach something useful, yeah, perhaps useful for some material occupation. and games without addictive design techniques, of which there are like one or two still around, but not really. Most games nowadays, pretty much everything, has these gambling mechanics built in. They have to. It's market forces have forced game companies to do this, even against their will. So most games should be, in my opinion, completely avoided. And this is also why I personally don't play video games. Because I know I really love video games, I do. So if I started playing, I would be lost, just like that guy in the video. So I know the only way to win at this is not to play. So, from Bhakti Yoga Sindhu, what I have done to satisfy this desire of mine is when one is not, so yes, this famous verse that Prabhupada quotes all over the place from Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Yoga Sindhu, when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the one hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So this Yukta Vairagya verse, where we can take something and dovetail it in Krishna consciousness. So this is what I've done. Yesterday, I invited some devotees to play this Lilas and Lokas. Can everyone who played please raise their hand? Yeah, a few devotees played this game. Which involves no screens. And here's my son also playing it with Gopal Guru's son and Dharmasetu's daughter. So it involves no screens. It's a collaborative storytelling game. You can ask the devotees that played it with me how it was. It's like this combination of improv acting in a more safe setting than standing up on stage. A theater play, except there's no script, and a board game, except there's no board. You play it all in your imagination. It sounds strange. You have to kind of experience it to understand it. It's based on Dungeons and Dragons, which is a very popular game, been around since the 70s. Very social, no screen game. So you play as an active participant in a Srimad Bhagavatam, and it satisfies at least my desire to play a game, while also remembering Krishna, because I have written the script based entirely. First of all, I've read the Bhagavatam pastime like 5 times to get every nuance of the pastime into the story, and then so it's had my own Krishna consciousness by just absorbing myself in Shastra. And then when the participants, a few people who played it commented this, that they realized nuances of the pastime that they did not remember. Like Lurie commented in the 100th horse sacrifice pastime, a king produced 100 horse sacrifices, how there's this Indra is speaking seemingly correct philosophy, at the same time he's not, so there's this odd nuance. And then in the Chitraketu's lamentation pastime, we also mentioned, some participants mentioned there's a nuance there of a verse that Narada Muni gives King Chitraketu to chant at the end of the pastime. It's like, I didn't even know that was there. So I'm finding it very fulfilling, and I carry on doing this with everyone's blessings, of course. So, in summary, the whole world is hooked on video games. Pretty much everyone plays one way or another. It's made it so easy. Every possible desire that someone has, every possible taste in video, in what satisfaction they're seeking, it's catered for. It's big business. They've expertly designed the games to be addictive as humanly possible. Seeing the addictive design with the eyes of knowledge should hopefully help everyone spot when and how this is happening. And you cannot resist. The only way to win is not to play. As soon as you start playing, they can hook you expertly. Thousands of people working day and night trying to craft this perfect experience. So you start playing, they got you. Like the psychologist was saying. So what to do? Well, you can get fully absorbed in bhakti, leaving no time to play games. Like Krishna Prasad here. I was talking to him. Yes. Hi, Krishna. Can I mention what we said today? Krishna Prasad?
I'm trying to renew the order.
Oh. I mentioned it. I'm sure you don't mind. How you were saying that you're so busy with a farm project, even if you wanted to play games, you wouldn't have the time, right? Yeah. So fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, amazing. Not that Krishna Prasad wants to play games, of course. I'm not implying that at all. But if you're so fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, there's no time to play games. Even the desire has no chance to enter in because complete happiness exists in Krishna consciousness. So, perfect way to avoid playing games by just being fully absorbed, all time taken up by serving Krishna. And if that's not possible, well, dovetailing the desire by playing some Krishna conscious games. There's other Krishna conscious games here and there that can be played that can take the same material desire that you really want to play the game, but turn it into something Krishna conscious, one way or another. And finally, for those that are seriously addicted, playing large amount of their time to the exclusion of health and sleep and job, definitely seek professional help. It is something that professional psychologists deal with all the time. It's so prominent in the world, so many people are addicted to games. Like 10% of all people that play, which is pretty much everyone, are addicted. So psychologists are seeing this all over the place and know how to help. So don't be too embarrassed to seek help if this is you or if there's someone you know. So, thank you very much. Any questions? Here, devotees have taken Minecraft and built the Temple of Planetarium in Minecraft in a game as a way of dovetailing their desire.